You are listening to Let's Be Honest with your host, Just Johnda. Hello and welcome back to Let's Be Honest with Just Johnda. I'm your host, Just Johnda, and tonight we have one of our fun shows where we are going to talk about all things Bravo, particularly one of our favorite shows, The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And of course, we're going to give you some Bravo gossip because there has been quite a bit in the last week or so, just things breaking all over the place. Now, I'm of course going to have my podcast bestie come in, Miss Missy. So she's going to be here in time to talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. She'll probably tune in just in time as we go through some of the Bravo gossip. So I'm going to start, as we always do, with the gossip, but I promise that we're not going to let it go so far that we don't talk about the show like we did last time. You got 2 episodes out of us. I mean, that's good, right? Hello, Georgia Sunshine. I see you are in the room. Feel free, if you have any questions, to type them in the chat. I'll be happy to have you, happy to answer anything that may be on your mind, particularly as it relates to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Looks like we've got Missy in the room. Hi, Missy.
Hi, sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great.
You got your applause and everything.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So just in time, I was actually just welcoming people into the room. For those of you who have been with us before, you know that sometimes we record live, and tonight is one of those times. So of course, if people pop up in the chat room, I can see them. But in the meantime, before we get started with Salt Lake City, because even though we've got 3 episodes to go through, it's like maybe three quasi 4 main things that have pretty much been kind of the thread that has gone through each episode. So even though we have 3 of them, it still won't take us hours upon hours to go through them because it's kind of the same thread like with each character. And with Whitney, I mean, she's sort of on the periphery. But anyway, we'll get to that in a bit. So, first, let's catch up on a little bit of Housewives gossip. Now, we know that last Tuesday, as a matter of fact, so I think it's been about a good week, and everybody has just been salivating because the new Bravo book has come out. I'm not going to say the title, they're not paying me for promotion, but there's been a new book about the housewives that has come out. I've listened to several interviews. Apparently, the person who wrote it, formerly on production or connected with the show, he interviewed 185 people, so over 100 housewives. Crazy that it's been that many, but I guess when you
Yeah.
factor in the number of shows, even if you just go with the ones that have pretty much been the staples, they have within themselves has had quite a few people on the show. I mean, even Potomac, which is still, I guess, I mean, it's not new compared to Salt Lake City, but still fairly new in the Bravo universe compared to the OGs at season 6. Even they have had, I would say, altogether, there's probably been at least a dozen women.
I think
Um,
so. I mean,
because they're
I
currently at
remember.
six or seven right now. If you count the friends, I think right now there's 6 mains, right? The You got the Giselle, Robin, and Ashley. Then you've got Karen, Candace, Wendy, and Mia. So actually that's 7, and then Escala, which is 8, and that's just on this season. We have Katie, who's no longer there, Charisse, Monique. I love me some Katie. Katie is one of those characters. I do. I'm sorry. Katie
How
is
did
one
you
of
know who I was laughing at? Like, of
yeah,
course
because
it
I
was
mean,
her.
of course, Katie is one of those characters who's kind of like uh she's like a Kim Richards, where you know that this is not good for her because of just their own demons, but they make such good television that like you the it's kind of like having the good angel on your shoulder and the bad angel on your shoulder, and the bad one is like, I want Katie and Kim Richards, you know. And the good one's like, no, this is not good for them, but the bad one's like, they make such good freaking TV.
They really do. They really do. Yes,
I
they
mean,
really do.
because Katie, even when she was like, when we didn't know the extent of her instability, because I really think that she was sort of on the downslope as the season went on. I mean, when the season started, I didn't really see much of a difference between her and any of the other women. I mean,
Are you
especially,
talking about that first season?
yeah, I mean, they were all delusional. I didn't see
Oh,
any
okay,
difference
okay.
between her and the rest of them. I mean, when you think about it, that they came on talking all this smack about, and etiquette, and we are the ones, and they were gonna show us, I don't know how light skinned people do it different. I don't know, but there was this whole air that they came on with, despite us being like, y'all ain't even got no damn money, but okay.
But
um
her stuff was raggedy. Don't you remember her man the first
Well,
season and how
no,
he didn't really want her?
no.
Don't you?
Her stuff was raggedy in terms of her personal life, but I'm saying, like, as far as her as a person, like the decline that we saw happen, particularly even when she came back as a friend. Now, mind you, total scene stealer. By the way, whatever you have going on in the background, I can hear it, so we don't want to get flagged for, just in case somebody says, "Oh, we heard our whole show." Um,
Oh no, I don't have anything on, but it might be my dishwasher, so I'll mute.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know why I thought it was like a television or something. But it may even be like an echo. But at any rate, Katie made good TV, and like I said, that first season no more delusional than anybody else on that show. Uh and by the time she came back as the scene stealer, in my opinion, on, I think it was season 4, she I mean, she had hit Kim Richardsville at that point. The only difference is
She
she
had
didn't
hit
have a
rock
sister.
bottom.
Yeah, I mean, she was in Kim Richardstown, but again, the shade, because when people hit that point, they don't give a shit, which is what makes it great to watch, because they are just ripping into everybody. Remember, she didn't care. She came with her lopsided wig. She had reeds. She just
It
didn't
was
care.
I just wanted to know, like, the sad part is with her that I thought was so tragic is that the average person would be like, what is she on? But I think she wasn't on anything.
No, she just
I
wasn't well.
Right.
And
Right.
you can see it even in present day, like she's not well. And there's obviously been a lot of ish, because even like Katie's claim to fame, even before, like, we didn't really know who she was by name, we just knew the story. And then once she came on the show, and especially once we saw like the whole where she was portrayed with like the male desperation thing, once she was on there, we saw it kind of got put together with the story where she was one of those pretty girls who was in, like girls who look like her, let's just call it what it is, get into certain circles with celebrity men. And so there's the infamous story about her hiding in the closet when Russell Simmons was cheating on her or had moved on from her or whatever. So there's always been there's always been some stuff. And of course, as we know, with all of that stuff, it doesn't matter what the man does, however the woman reacts, even, despite what they may add to it, she's gonna have she's gonna have the moniker of crazy forever. And then unfortunately, you add to the fact that she does seem to have genuine problems, and that just sort of, sealed the deal.
Yeah, it was kind of sad. I hope they
Yeah.
don't bust
I
her
still love
back.
her.
I hope they
No,
don't
I
bust
don't
her
think they're
back
going
on
to.
this whatever new season or whatever they're going to do moving forward.
Yeah, no, I don't think they are. I don't even think that's an issue. But I do hope that, since the author made it a point to go and talk to literally everybody that he could on it, well, at least as many people as he could from every franchise, that Katie was one of the ones that he spoke to, because as much tea as these women spilled, and a lot of it quite shady. I was actually surprised with even some of the stuff that people who are currently on the shows have said. So for those who are no longer on the show, I definitely want to. Would love to know the types of things they said, because I know that he did interview the Miami girls. I do believe he did say interview Kim Richards. So this the DC girls, but the Dallas women. In fact, the only ones he did not interview was Salt Lake City, because this book has been several years in the making. I mean, he obviously went back and, sort of like they do pickup shots. He obviously went back and got and did some follow-up interviews with Monique and Candace, because he does have stuff about the fight. But then again, even that happened in the fall of 2009, so he may have stuff about the fight in the aftermath in real time when it happened, as opposed to, like, the mess and the new fallout once it actually aired on the show. But I actually listened to a most recent interview with him this afternoon, and he said with 185 people and literally over 500 hours worth of interviewing, that it was fine with him to miss out on one franchise. And the women are so new. I don't think that there's anything that anybody would really care about. They haven't had as much history with the network. The stuff that they may have going on and on with each other is not that deep and fairly current. And anything outside of that, they're still at the stage where they're still so new that they're lying about their lives. So I'm with him that it, even if they were made available to him, they wouldn't have been worth interviewing at this stage. Whereas the other wives are like getting into production tea, like Atlanta, of course, really delves into, as well they should, the stuff that went down with Phaedra, Portia, and Candy, which truly changed that show forever. Not just the 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 trajectory of the characters, but it really, that was so just next level attempt attempt at such a next level attempt at the destruction of someone's life, that it really changed the show in a way that they could never pivot from.
I have a question for you. Did
Uh-huh.
he address the what Carol Radiswell said about him? Um, she was quoted as saying in the book, like apparently he said that she is not the
Who
person I
the
used to
the
know.
production or the who are you talking about? The
So Andy Cohen, right?
okay.
He says he made this quote saying she's not the person I used to know, right? And apparently she says in the book, right, addressing Andy Cohen, she says, just another man telling a woman she ought to be more grateful. Housewives changed Andy's life, not mine. Bravo built a $100 million franchise on the backs.
You just went out, but I will address that. I did not, the interview I was listening to today, I must be honest to say I wasn't able to finish it because I had something else to do. So I'm not really sure about that. I would imagine,
Okay.
though, because I did hear that quote, and you and I already talked about the fact that we're going to, read the book and see like how we can sort of incorporate it into our gossip and make it more interesting than everybody just talking about it chapter and verse. Because I don't think everything is interesting, but there's little tidbits, like what you just said. Because I know for me, it's not even yes, there's juicy stuff and that's interesting, but those bigger themes, like what you just said and what Carol said, are things that are really far more interesting. Now, I don't think that Andy, if I can't imagine Andy addressing something like that, because honestly, what is it he's going to say? I mean, what is it that he could say? We already know, no matter what how he dances around it, because if not with the white women, we certainly see with the black housewives that he 1000% has this attitude that he changed their lives and what have you. And in some of their cases, there's no question that this show, and I guess, with people like Nene Leakes, you could get into a chicken or the egg argument, but there's no doubt, or no question that this show was life changing for them, or for some of them. I think the
Right.
issue that I have and that you have, because you and I have talked about it before, is how he lords that attitude over them, and not even so much how he does it, but who he does it to. Because I do think that with some of the black housewives in particular, it is not only true, but it's probably a little bit more obvious, because at least at the beginning of some of these women coming into play, and certainly Atlanta, which you and I have talked about, and that's kind of why Atlanta sort of went the direction it did, because they couldn't compete dollar for dollar, cent for cent, so they had to go for entertainment value.
Right. Right.
So we know that that was life changing. It made a difference, the whole 9 yards. If there's no greater example of that, it would be Nene Leakes. Whether she likes it or not, whether her fans like it or not, while she may have brought the idea of doing this show with a group of black women in Atlanta to him or to the network through her people, however that happened, we do know, and I think it's fairly undisputed, that this was something that she felt like could be, that it could sell and it could work with a group of black women, and she was the person who made that happen. And of course, for obvious reasons, it was built around her bringing in some of her friends in that first season, specifically Sheree and Kim, and then the other ones like Dion Snow, and the little itty bitty one, what's her name, Lisa.
Oh yeah, the light skin. Yeah, the one
Exactly.
married who was married to Keith Sweat.
Yes,
Yes.
and that they were cast into the show, and that's fine because that happens with any reality show. But the nucleus of the show were and as it should have been, the ones who were actually her friends, and then everybody else was brought in, and that's fine. But can we deny that it was life changing for her? No, we certainly can't. And so, but I think the bigger issue is, and I agree with Carol 100%. I mean, that goes without saying. Not only did he not do anything for her, and certainly in terms of her life, but she was richer than everybody on that
Yeah.
show. Um,
Yeah. And had a very established career in
yes,
a spotlight. In a spotlight, all right. Like
and
her and Candy, right?
yeah,
Like
and I
they
mean, say what you want about some of these other women, Monique Samuels being one of them. No, she may not have had some big career and what have you. And yes, she did want to be involved in the entertainment industry. She never made any secret of that because, as she said, she initially, when she was young, started out wanting to be a rapper. But the reality of it is whether she went out and started a tech company, or if she did as many women have done before her, some men, but largely women, and married well, which I don't have an issue with that either. She didn't need the money. She was on the show because she was interested in being in the entertainment industry, and there's nothing wrong with that. But so, did you provide an opportunity for her to, be seen in that light? Sure, but are you changing my life in terms of, you're putting food on my table? No, just like the LA women, they went on there because they are entertainment adjacent and it brings attention. Lisa Vanderpump needed the money? No. But would you ever come at Lisa the way you came at Monique? No. And that therein lies the problem.
well, and also because when you talk about and we've talked about this offline about the kind of resources that certain money can afford, which means
Mhm.
big time entertainment lawyers,
Yeah.
right? Not JoJo in them or, somebody who
Hmm.
was representing a basketball wife, but like real deal, Holyfield. These
Yeah.
people, even if they don't have a case, will run you into the ground lawyers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a big difference.
exactly. So, yeah, so that's obviously huge. A lot of juice coming out. Like I said, there's a lot of things that were said, especially from people like Candace Dillard Bassett, that I was like, it was just surprising to me, some of the things that women who are still a part of the Bravo universe said. And I mean, and hey, I'm leery of stuff like that, especially because I just feel like everything was far too incestuous. Because at the end of the day, this is still something that Andy Cohen is making money off of anyway. And maybe that's it. Like, if you're Darth Vader and I'm not saying this about him, but I'm just saying, if you're Darth Vader and you run the evil empire, if it's going to make you money for people to talk about you, good or bad, then you don't care, especially if the end goal is money, not whether or not these people like you, especially
I
if you don't have any respect for them one way or the other.
I read Andy Cohen's biography that he published like a long time ago before he was really like the big
Hmm.
name that he is. And I just
Which he
think
became
that
off the back of the Housewives.
yeah, I just think that he loves the drama and he's a messy person. So
Oh,
I
absolutely.
actually think he relishes people not liking him. Like I think he relishes a fight.
Well, Andy is, and I'm just gonna, because we keep it real on this show. If we were with our LGBTQ friends in the club, let's call a spade a spade. If we were sitting with the girls talking about Andy Cohen, Andy would be called by everybody a messy queen. In fact, I've heard members of the LGBTQ call him that. That is the area that he falls into. You got your bulls, your bears, your femmes, your this, your that. And he's a
Right.
messy queen. And,
Right.
and I
Right.
mean, and that's just what it is. And that's not, being anti whatever. That is Andy Cohen.
Right. Right.
Hell, we sit here gossiping, call us messy queens too. It is what it is.
I do
Okay.
love the drama. I do love the drama.
Exactly. So, okay, so that's the book. We're going to talk more about that. We gave it even more than it deserved. The next big news is Porsha Peach Juice Williams. They released the trailer to her show, and there's so many layers to this that we will probably have to have a whole other episode to discuss this, because I literally was just on a show and actually like on the show on YouTube talking another one of my favorite shows, Tisa Tells, TISA TELLS, which I will be appearing on this week, by the way, to do in-depth legal discussion about the Jen Shaw case and gossip and fun. But anyway, there's so many layers to the Porsha Williams thing. That show ended up being like 2.5 hours long. In fact, I had to go and they were still on, because I guess the most important thing to ask you is, did you see the trailer? Which I am not committing to watching this show, because I don't even watch RHOA anymore. I just keep up with the gossip.
I saw it.
Well, I'm going to say this, and then I think that this is a good synopsis, and then we'll just move on to the next thing. You are coming off the heels of a season where you were supposed to be showing your evolution and becoming an advocate that nobody ever knew they wanted and are good without, for Black Lives Matter. But you're Black, you matter, so you decided to do it. It did not ultimately become the most important thing, because at a bachelorette party, you straddled your castmates and told them what they were going to do to your hoo-ha, and then allegedly, okay, come on, slept with a stripper, and then everybody in the world defended, that 39-year-old behavior. Then we were still supposed to be buying into, I don't know, somebody trying to call you or me. Then we were supposed to still be buying into this evolution, right down to you writing a book. And suddenly you're engaged to a former quasi cast member's husband.
After you claim you were homeless.
Yes, you were homeless, sleeping on the queen size bed in your mother's McMansion.
Yeah.
Now granted, you were less a home if you sold yours, but you were not homeless. I mean, it's like, are there any homeless people to come out and protest this? But anyway,
I know that was just so that bothered me. That just irked my soul.
When it comes to Porsha, I don't even bother saying that she's tone deaf, because once you hit a certain level of ridiculousness, does tone deaf even apply? You know what I mean? Like, tone deaf, when I use the term tone deaf, it's usually with someone who I expect better from, and so it pisses me off that they behave in a manner that is tone deaf for the equation. But when you expect so little of someone, does that even apply?
I mean, she thought the Underground Railroad was literally a train.
But yet we're supposed to recognize that she is evolved. And even the Simon Guobadia thing, we're not even going to go down that road because that'll be another
Mm.
30 minutes. It was supposed to be an evolution. But then we get her show that was supposed to be about her life and her and Simon. I don't know. It was supposed to be us. We know what it was, right? It was supposed to go hand in hand with her book, The Pursuit of Porsha, and she's doing this, she's doing that. And possibly even, which would have been super smart, in my opinion, if you really wanted to secure this turning into a regular thing, you should be leading up to and possibly even giving a wedding, because we are no longer living in the Kim Zolciak days where Bravo had money. It was raining money, particularly from their jewels in the crown, Real Housewives of Atlanta, Real Housewives of New York, even Jersey was popping for a minute, in those early years where, where they could just give people spin-offs and shows, and no matter how few viewers they had or how bad they were, a la Kim Zolciak, sign a multi-season deal and they come back. Now, I would suppose Porsha probably felt somewhat secure, which is why she left RHOA. I would bet, especially since this went from being a 3 episode special to a 6 episode special to now they're saying in season 1, I would suspect that maybe they did a 2 season deal with the in anticipation that season 2 would be, even if it's just a little short thing, like 6 episode type deal, would be when we get the wedding. Um, if
Girl, do
they
you
make it
really
to
think
that point, no, no.
I was gonna say, like, I mean,
Not based on what we saw. Now, I preface all of that to say, because we need to get ready to wrap this up so we can get into the show. I say all of that to say that what we got in a show where there's no question that even if it's a vanity credit, she got an executive producer credit because she's been with Bravo long enough to earn that. No, God bless her. That what we have were you allowing yourself and your family to show not who you want to be, but who you've always been. There is it's something that we shouldn't want to see. Now you build this as your baby daddy and your new husband to be getting along. What do we see in the previews? Now they make it along. They still follow each other on Instagram. However, what you're pushing for the show in the clip is that there's issues. Now, of course, we'll find out they're not there, but that's not a good look. Family members sniping at one another. Lots of weaves, of course. And then what do we have that somehow always ends up with something involved with her? An eruption of violence. It doesn't matter who started it or who finished it. That's not a good look if that is the preview that you're putting out there for your show, and it's supposed to be a part of your rebranding for the pursuit of Porsha, because now you don't even have your brand working, the two biggest elements of your brand, which is you as a person, because obviously between the book and the show, she's gonna be on the PR tour to end all PR tours. I mean, we're gonna see so much of her. We're gonna think that she's on a daily soap opera because she's just gonna be everywhere. And I get it, because
right.
you got to do what you got to do. And again, as I said before, Bravo is not just handing out checks and giving, and just saying, "Oh, we'll let it ride," because as we've seen, the ratings for all of the Housewives shows are down. They've, we've hit jump to shark territory, and well, we did that long time ago with most of the shows. And as they have shown, they are willing to literally cut their OGs if they have to balance the budget.
Can I ask you a question though? What is Portia's brand? I mean, when I think her brand, I'm thinking
That's it.
eyelashes, weave,
I mean,
sloppy
that's it.
sex, desperation.
I
That's,
mean, apparently she's got bedding. I don't
Okay.
know what that really has to do with anything, but I know she has it. I mean, her brand is being, it is being a Porsche. I don't, there is no, it's, the problem is you don't have what your vision for the direction that you want it, because let's face it, there are people whose brand is just them. I mean, hello, cue the Kardashians. And they evolved it into a lifestyle that is still just them, but we know what that lifestyle is. Portia, on the other hand, has been trying to rebrand herself as where she started essentially, which is I am the child of my ancestors, the granddaughter of Hosea Williams,
Which is so sad.
a woman on the brink of 40. I am a mother, I am an advocate, I am a whatever. When instead all we get is and
Yeah.
and for all of the, you and I are quick to say we're not stands of anyone. I'm just going by what I see, and I'm too old to really get as invested as these people get in these stand battles. Just going to call it how I see it. And even for those who feel like she makes the show on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, when really, what is it that she did that was interesting or fascinating? Because other than when she was in group scenes with the women, or a conflict with the women, because even in group scenes she barely held her own because she did not really match them in wits. And when she was in scenes on her own with her sister or her mother, they were a bit of a snooze fest.
I
And,
mean,
and
the
they also
only
didn't reflect well on her because she kind of came off as a little jealous of her sister, especially when her sister was pregnant. And it certainly didn't look good for her mom because, her mom, the biggest scenes with her mother always came off bitter, especially this past season.
the only thing that I could really remember, like, each one of these women have a funny line that I always remember them
Yeah.
for.
Hmm.
And my favorite one that I can just hear in my head now is Portia saying to Kenya, "Bye, Ashy,"
Yeah.
which was my absolute favorite because she really was like her feet were ashy,
Yeah.
which made it especially funny. But that's it. Like, that's it. Like, she's
And
not.
even when she had the special with Dennis, it was kind of like, and let's face it, now again, you and I pride ourselves on saying things that maybe other people won't say, but the world is built around people liking to see pretty people. This is pretty privilege, but also even when they watch television in seeing pretty people. And
Be careful
Portia,
going down this path. Be careful
I'm just
going
going
down
to
this
say it,
path, girl.
and
Be
and
careful.
Portia is pretty. But
Hmm.
when but we also know that even when people are with their mates and it's a show about their love and whatever, I hate to say it, but it's a bias. People like to see pretty people.
Right.
And when the mate looks kind of creepy, it doesn't really sit well. I mean, would you like to watch a whole show staring at
Dennis,
Ashley,
no.
Darby, and Michael?
No.
And it's not even
Never.
just because of how we feel about Michael in terms of the creepazoid factor with the his antics. It's that he looks like Gollum.
If anyone could use a tan, it's him. I feel like he needs to go to that beach house ASAP and get as much vitamin D as possible.
Yeah. But back to, so nobody wants to look at Porsha and Dennis. And I mean, I'm sorry, and Simon. And honestly, when she did the baby special, not really wanting to look too hard at Porsha and Dennis either. Porsha, yes. Dennis, no. There's a reason why in movies the hero looks a certain way and the villain looks another way. And that sucks, but it's just a bias that people have. Now, I'm a person of a certain age, so I know that none of us start to look good when gravity takes hold or the gears take hold.
But also, I just
But
think
I'm
that
not selling the show.
But I also think that this Dennis person is just thirstier than
Yeah,
even
Simon.
Porsha is.
Well, Simon, this is a come up for Simon because as we've seen, but I'm gonna keep saying allegedly, but he doesn't have what they claim he has.
The trailer smacks of desperation, and that's why I really don't
Well,
have
his
anything to say.
Instagram smacks of desperation. Their whole relationship smacks of desperation.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's the other thing. So there is Portia's show, and then just the springboard for that, Real Housewives of Atlanta has finally um nailed down who is going to be on the show. No big surprises here because of who we had been hearing. The only thing that did not come up, and this was in Variety, so not rumored, and is Akon's wife or wives, which I was actually kind of looking forward to. Um, but so we didn't get the real wife, the fake wife, or anything in between. And according to Variety, they did not. There is no one listed as friends of the show. Now we know that once they go into production, that could change. The friends of the show thing, anyway, could change because if there is something that pops off and somebody just happens to be in the mix and they shine, of course production's not going to leave that on the editing room floor just because someone they didn't anticipate kind of emerges. Especially given that the cast is not it's not big, like it definitely had leaves room for a friend and or two, and not everybody is so new that a friend wouldn't get lost in the mix. But at least for now, a word on the street is we don't get a sister wives situation, which I'm sad about because that actually would have made me watch.
You weren't surprised that they finally gave Marlo a chance to be a full
um
on.
that was the only, okay, so I'll give you that. That was the only surprise. Marlo has been operating in terms of her amount of screen time. She has been certainly in the past 2 years, but there's been some years where not as much as others, but definitely in the past 2 years, Marlo has been operating in a capacity where it was just ridiculous that she didn't have a peach. Do I think that she should in relation to what the show is supposed to be about and how little Marlo allows us to know about her life? No, but absolutely not, because even with the other women who were not married, there was still at least some semblance of dating um or even if it was just manufactured for the show, there was
Right.
still the understanding that there was supposed to be this relationship element in some way because it is a housewives show. Candy was unmarried, but she was engaged. he, and he died. Obviously, that's way
Mm-hmm.
a totally different situation in terms of that not panning out. And we saw her then ultimately be with somebody. Phaedra married, became divorced. Cynthia was dating Peter when she came on, already engaged. We saw the wedding, the divorce, and her dating again. Um, Kenya came on unmarried. She had the Walter thing, whatever. And no matter, this may be an unpopular opinion, but no matter what people say about the Walter thing and whether or not it was real, fake, whatever, and whoever she's dated since then, my point in mentioning that right now isn't even to deal with the real or the fake. It is just to point out the fact that if nothing else, to coin a phrase that everybody uses now, she understood the assignment that in
Yeah.
coming on a Housewives show, there needed to be some semblance or a direction towards coupling,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
the idea that it was going to happen. And you need to be in a position that when we do couple things which married people would do, you would have somebody to do them with. And that as Black women being chosen for these shows, even if it was Atlanta, you all were not going to get away with what Kim Zolciak was getting away with for her initial years on the show before Freud, which is that whether there was a man or not, we were never going to see him. He was never going to be on a trip or anything else because he was somebody else's man.
That was a mess. That was a
And
mess.
maybe that's why she fit, because she was a real housewives mistress. So so I guess that
Yeah.
kind of worked as well. Um but anyway, so you have Candy Kenya, which we knew, and that, I mean, we knew they weren't going anywhere, and they said as much. Had Candy Kenya, Marlo, who we knew wasn't going anywhere. It was just she finally got the peach. And you know what? It is what it is. If nothing else, with Marlo getting the peach, at least she gets the money, because that's really what the issue was.
Right. Right.
Marlo was putting in the work, and for that much, I'll give it to her. Same with Kenya, knew the assignment, other than bringing a man into the mix, but she was putting in the work without the money, because even though she was getting friend of money, Marlo has proven herself worthy of being a cast member for what they do on Atlanta specifically. Marlo, in that regard, has more than earned that peach. So Marlo, Drew Sidora, who I honestly think the only reason this woman has her job is because they needed to fill the slot. I mean, there's just literally no other reason for her to be there. She made no real connection with anybody on the show, and sort of the little fake fawning connection she tried to make it with Porsha at the end was really, again, about having somebody to film with, because she didn't connect with the other women on the show, specifically Candy, Cynthia, Marlo. So, which is, so in addition to being boring, her being boring, and I don't mean boring because of no drama, I mean she's just boring. um the storyline that she had, I mean, yes, she did have a storyline, but it made her and her husband unlikable. And there was just, again, she's the right age, she's attractive, she is married, and she has a family. She fits at least the age demographic that they have been trying to skew towards, which was the whole reason they brought her and Latoya Ali on the show, and they never made any secret of the fact that that's why they brought them on the show. So,
To be honest, I would rather see Eva back on. I mean, if that's what
oh,
you're
I agree.
going for, I'd rather see Eva. I liked her. I liked her husband. I liked the whole
Yeah,
situation.
and I think that them giving grief because she was pregnant, well, if you're skewing towards a younger demographic, one, she fits the bill more than any of these other heifers because she's married. I
Yeah.
mean, unless we keep forgetting it's a housewives show. And two, and people, and it's really funny because people get so offended when we bring that up, or even when the characters say it to each other, you have women going, "Oh, you guys are so, you just want to be so male identified, and throwing the husbands in the face of what." It's not even about that. This is not Run the World or Sex in the City. This is the real housewives. I mean, house, whatever, but being a wife is the premise of the freaking show. Don't give me some, BS about it, because ever so often, if the women are throwing jabs at each other, they might mention that you don't have a man or whatever, whatever. That's what we're on the show about. So is a jab that's appropriate for this occasion. Any other time, I will go with you on that whole, women shouldn't use whether or not somebody has a man as some badge of honor to throw in somebody else's face when you're having an argument or whatever. I'm with you on that.
Well,
But in this
speaking
type
of
of show, it makes sense.
speaking of housewives and men, I mean, Sheree is back with her new man
With
who just got out of
Tyrone,
jail.
yes, and apparently he got the COVID release. So word on the street is maybe he would have done more time, but he was on the white collar side of things anyway. Sheree's with a scammer. And I mean, it's appropriate. It's Atlanta. He was in Philly before that. So Philly, Atlanta, scammer, whatever.
Somebody has to keep her in the chateau.
Well, we know who's keeping her in the chateau. Her mama, because it was in her mom's name. So, and Sonia Richards Ross, which, if I got her name right, and I have it written, but it's on the other side of the room, and I don't want to take off my headphones. Well, wait a minute, I will, because I hate saying people's names wrong. Hold on for a sec. Okay, well, screw it, because what I thought I wrote it on. Oh, yeah, I do. I have it. Okay. All right, I was right. And Sonia Richards Ross, former Olympian who is no newbie at this. So that's a good thing, in that we don't have to um either you like her or you don't, but it won't be hinging upon that growing pains with someone not really getting it in terms of what it means to put yourself in front of the cameras in a reality TV environment, and just kind of how you're supposed to sell it. So with her, at least you don't have those growing pains. It'll just totally be about how she connects and interacts with these women. Because not only has she been on reality TV before, but she and her husband's show was their own show. So she knows what to do. And was it you that talked about that, really liked her and her husband and really liked their relationship? It was somebody I talked to about that really liked them, and the fact that the husband was very in love with her. And it's just a really nice situation there. So, let's see how that all turns out. But at least going into it, she's got good buzz because of the impression that she and her husband gave on their own show. So I guess we'll see. Candy, you know what? However people may feel about her and the whole like bone carrying thing or whatever, I think again that's just about knowing the assignment and knowing what your job is in terms of keeping the show going. But as far as drama, really, unless you do something to her personally, you don't have any. There's no drama just for the sake of drama with her. Now, Kenya doesn't have any issue with being the antagonist, and that was Nini's role, and now someone else is taking it over. That kind of keeps, if you're going to have drama involved in the storyline, that's what keeps it going. Marlo, of course, is very happy to take on that role as well. And I
Yeah.
think that that's what Bravo is counting on her doing, especially now that she truly is a cast member, as opposed to sort of being on the periphery, tossing in digs to get a moment, as they say. Um, So I think it'll be an interesting dynamic, to say the least. Whether or not it'll be interesting enough as it relates to the ratings, I said it last season and I'm going to continue to say it. I don't blame any one person for that. I think that and I think that when you look at the ratings drop across the board, that tells the story. The fans of Nene or this one or that one can say all they want about, oh, it's because she's gone or because of that. This is the natural attrition when you start getting in the 13, 14 seasons or whatever, especially when you're still doing the same shit. What is it that you expect people to be watching? And also, because it's supposed to be a reality show, you have the element of of certain women who were in or around your age range who started watching the show to kind of to watch women and their interaction, who were in or around their age range. Well, guess what? Everybody turned 50 and you're still doing the same shit. In
I
fact,
al-
you're not, it's not even just that you're not even acting like you're 50. You're acting like a 25-year-old who also is an asshole.
but I also think in this age of COVID, and even moving forward, the things where you had people going to different locales and interacting with different people and at parties and interacting with different people, it just reads different now and not in a good way. So that's going to be a struggle moving forward.
Yeah, but they've been losing ratings even since before
Yeah.
COVID. So I agree with you that that may be a struggle, but it's a struggle that's not going to help. And I don't think that that's any one person's fault.
No, it's not.
I think they aged out of their fan base, or more, actually more accurately, their fan base outgrew them.
Yeah, probably. Or we're just all numb to it all. I mean, it's just
Well, yes,
overexposure.
well, it's but again, that's what I'm saying. It's overexposure to the same shit. You want to see
Mhm.
this? Do you want to see even your own friends doing, arguing about the same stuff, or shall we say, arguing in the same way and reacting to one another in the same way as they did 10 years ago? You would kind of, if that was the case, you would, especially if it's toxic, that would probably result in you limiting the amount of time that you were with them, up to and including the point of your friendship not really existing, or certainly not existing in the same way anymore.
Right.
So why would
Right.
you want to watch it? And then you also take the maturity aspect of it. And as Black people in particular, when there's so many things that we have going on, it's kind of, I know people get all like in their underwear about respectability politics. Call it what you want to call it. If something ain't a good look, it ain't a good look, and I don't give a damn who's looking.
I agree.
So, okay, so that is our gossip, and we still ended up going on an hour, but it doesn't matter because we're just going to keep going. Okay, everyone, that is a wrap on part one of this week's Bravo Gossip and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City episodes 5, 6, and 7. Come back for episode 2, where we go in depth on episodes 5, 6, and 7 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. You know what happens when you get with me and Missy. We start giving you the Bravo gossip, and it just tends to go. So I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Don't forget to follow us on social media, particularly Twitter and Instagram at Let's Be Honest JJ. That's LETSBEHONEST. You can also join in on the daily fun and interactive conversations over on the blog on Facebook at the Fashion and Drama Diaries. You can find the link in the information section for this podcast. We'd love to have you there joining in on the fun. You can also reach me via DM and email. So feel free to send me any good tea you got. As always, you know I'm going to investigate it. But for now, remember, if you're thinking about it and want to talk about it, chances are I'm thinking about it and want to talk about it with you. So let's be honest together. Don't forget to come back for part 2, The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.